be round a champion, a champion. This is me, I still on it, 'cause you all wanna be loved, and you all wanna be loved.
All right, welcome. This is Wednesday. I'm back. I wasn't here last week, but Dan and Hannah actually held it down so well. It was awesome. I enjoyed the show last week, and it looks like the audience also enjoyed it. So kudos to both of you. Now, before we get started, I definitely want to mention, hit that like button now. Go ahead and hit it while you're in, and go ahead and subscribe as well, and hit that bell notification button so that you don't miss any videos. We have a lot of content that comes out throughout the week, so we definitely don't want y'all to miss that. Even when it's just the shorter videos giving highlights of certain recruits, we don't want y'all to miss that. So I'm your host. My name is Sishi, and before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Workspace Solutions. So we have their website listed below in the banner, but if your business needs a marketing team or a digital presence at a good price, be sure to contact them. You can actually go to their website and check out their services and products. And if you see anything that you like, be sure to let them know that we sent you over. So as I mentioned, I'm your host. My name is Sishi, and we are essentially, so the Crimson Dynasty is the sister channel of the Bama Standard Network. So I know a lot of you are supporters of the Bama Standard. We have a lot of familiar faces across the network and other networks. So y'all are gonna, see us a lot, especially coming up to A-Day and, fall camp and all that good stuff. So we have a hot show tonight, but I definitely want to go ahead and introduce our co-host. So I'm going to start out with Dan James IV. He's our lead recruiting analyst for the Bama Standard Network. I know a lot of you are familiar with him. Now, you can actually catch him every Tuesday night, literally every Tuesday night around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Final Whistle. So that's another channel or show that we have on the Bama Standard Network. So he drops a lot of gems regarding some of the recruits, some of the current guys, the ones who have been at Alabama, the ones to come. So whenever you have questions, and even in the chat tonight, be sure to light up the live chat. If you have questions about certain recruits or whatever the case may be, just drop it in the live chat and we'll try to get to it. But I also want to mention Hannah Stevens. So she's our latest addition. She's been awesome. She's been firing it up. She has a wide range of knowledge across all the sports. So, and we'll get into that later into the show. Now, she's been on several college football shows. She has a sports broadcasting degree from Alabama, but she's also on a radio show in Huntsville, Alabama, ESPN Radio, and she has a couple podcasts that come out each month. So she's definitely doing her thing, and we definitely have to shout her out. So I want to just say good evening to both of you. Y'all held it down last week, and I'm glad to be back. So thank you for holding it down. I just want to, ask, how are y'all doing? We're getting close to A-Day. I'll start with you, Hannah. How are you feeling? Are you pumped about A-Day? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think for me personally, I love the fact that people are just as scared with Kalen DeBoer at the reign as they were Nick Saban. And I think that people rejoiced very quickly when Nick Saban announced his retirement. And now they're like, dang, Alabama's really not going to have a slump year. They're really not like Tennessee. They're not going to have 55 rebuilding years because Nick Saban's built a dynasty that Kalen DeBoer is continuing. So I'm excited. I love this time of year. I saw my best friend yesterday. That the thing I love about the season, especially when we have, basketball that's in a tournament, that you have sports going on with spring sports, you have basketball, and then you have spring practice. So I am here for it. I love this time of year, and I'm very excited to be here tonight.
Awesome. I agree with you. And then Dan, how you feeling tonight? I know you're going to be giving us some laughs tonight, but how you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good. It is hump day.
It is
hump day, y'all. Hump day means it's Crimson Dynasty is on. You know what I'm saying? Hey, great time to be a Bama fan, y'all. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide, roll. All right. Well, like I said, be sure to light up that live chat. Hannah and Dan, they pay a lot of attention to the live chat. I try not to as much because we do get a lot of trolls who don't have anything better to do on a Wednesday night from Auburn and Michigan and everywhere else. So, I mean, when you don't have a pro day, when you don't have anything like A-Day, when you don't have the facilities, but you want to come here and talk junk, they're going to get y'all. I'm going to mind my business, but I'll let them get y'all. So the first thing that we want to jump into is some huge news for just the community community of Alabama, the world of basketball, the Sweet 16. Alabama is in. I think it's huge, right? It's awesome. And we have North Carolina tomorrow night. So we wanted to get into that first. Now, the questions that we're hearing is, oh, well, can Alabama, take them down? People question how we play from a defensive perspective. And it's interesting because there was an article that came out this week, and essentially it was, I think, AL.com or some site. But basically, they tried to say that Nick Pringle is like the biggest reason why we've struggled defensively. And I like that he called it trash, because it was trash. And my thing is, like, you can't put the onus on just one player. Like, most people with some type of etiquette, they know that. Now, UNC is favored to win, but I'd like to think that, we didn't come this far to lose. So I wanted to get y'all's opinions on that. How do you feel going into this matchup tomorrow? I mean, do y'all feel like we're prepared? Do you feel like we may, I don't know. I'm going to start with you, Hannah. How do you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I really am. I think the team we saw last week was the team that we've been seeing all year. Now, reflectively looking at the scoreboard, you're probably like, not so much, but we played scrappy. We played hard, and I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. Now, did I love the referees? Absolutely not. But that's a story for another day. But this team that showed up is a team that if we play like that against UNC, we could win. I think you're looking at a team, and I'll say this. Last year, we had, I feel like, a different type of cohesion that this team's lacked, right? We had a lot of unity. We had a good group of guys that kind of just had more than one leader on the court. And Mark Sears has kind of been that guy who has had to hold the rein for this team. But if we can, as a team, come out, play defense against a North Carolina who's going to be taller and stronger than we are, and I'll say three things for me that is going to be the keys for Alabama to win. Defensive rebounds. If we cannot rebound, we're going to lose. The second thing, fundamentals. For whatever reason, we struggle to dribble and we struggle to have smart passes. That will kill any team, regardless of what seeding you are. And the third thing for me that Alabama has to do to win is to shoot smart. I think we saw a little bit of a stress hustle in their shots. If we can calm down, be composed, be smart, I don't see your problem in Alabama losing, regardless of the height difference between North Carolina and Alabama. If we can show up, we can play scrappy, play defense, and get rebounds, we should win the game.
I agree. And the biggest thing for me is defense, the defensive rebounds, like you mentioned, because I think some of the games that we struggled in, whether we lost or we came out with a win, it was still some defensive struggles. And you really have to have both sides of the ball in order to win, especially these, teams that we're going to be playing coming down the pipeline. So I really hope that we get it together. Now, Dan, I'm going to kick it off to you. How do you feel? Because I know that you keep track of basketball. Look, y'all, I know that y'all remember it's been many shows that we've had on Wednesday nights where we would have a basketball game at the same time, and he would literally be breaking his neck watching TV while we're talking, and you would think that somebody's like kicking his door down or something. Like, it would have his full attention. So Dan, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. How do you feel about Alabama going into this matchup with NC?
I feel good. Hey, we're playing with house money at the moment. A lot of people didn't count on us being here, especially the way we finished out the season. But hey, we beat UNC last year. But that was with Charles Bediako. But this team here, we're gonna have to be hot. We're gonna have to be hot from beyond the arc. UNC, they don't have the shooters. Baycott, I think he's gonna get his. So we can't, what we got to do, we got to try to run them, run them around, run them off the block, but we're going to have to try to, they have like a solid 8 to 9 man rotation. So, we there's no need for us not to be able to push the ball, and play our style. So, I think it's a game we can win, and I think it's a favorable matchup for us.
I think so too. And I think sometimes we kind of, benefit from being the underdog, if you will. It's been a lot of talk and chatter and just different things being said, especially regarding our basketball team. But I think our guys are awesome. I think that they have that hunger to win. We talk a lot about football here and just that hunger and that Alabama standard, but it translates across the board. And I think that it also helps that, we've been seeing Coach Saban, Coach DeBoer, Jalen Milroe, Malachi Moore, different guys from other sports and girls from other sports showing up and supporting. I mean, it matters. These basketball guys, they're out there at our football games, they support. So I think that it needs to be, across the board. So I love that. And one additional thing, just in terms of basketball, is that we did pick up another recruit. There's a guy, well, technically he's a transfer, Houston, I think Millette. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of his last name, but he's coming in from Pepperdine, and he's going to start next year. He'll be playing next year. And so I think that's a huge pickup. I think Nate Oats, he's doing an awesome job. And just the name and the standard and the way in which we play and that hunger, that drive, I mean, it speaks for itself. See, this is why we talk about traditions. So those little raggedy Auburn fans and little, salty Michigan and everybody else, they don't that's what they don't understand. They don't understand what tradition means. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why we don't have to pay students millions of dollars to come to Alabama. Our name holds weight. Ohio State, they may have to pay millions of dollars. We don't have to do that. So I just think that there are levels. There are literally levels to this. And I think that the world is starting to see it. Now, I do see a comment from Van Edwards. Dan James was a star power forward. He was NBA logo before, before Jerry was. Shout out to you, Dan. Look, hey, take your glamorous shot, Dan. Linda, good evening. I believe Bama can do this. I'm so proud to be a Bama girl. I think so, too. I think we need to really show our guys some support. It's so much noise. Like I mentioned that article that was written about Pringle. It's just like, first of all, be quiet. Like it lacks class. You know what I'm saying? Like just let things play out before you run your mouth. Raggedy Auburn. I mean, that to me, that's how I see them. I see them as raggedy. They are raggedy, y'all. They're so raggedy. It's pathetic. They have no pro day. They have nothing better to do.
I mean,
yeah, you lost to Yale. My cousin graduated from Yale, and I'm just like, no shade to you, sir, but y'all stay over there in the academics, because just some arenas you can't literally play in. So no, Auburn, going back to where y'all came from. We know y'all don't have any shows to watch. You have nothing to talk about. Y'all are used to taking L's. So just stay where you are. Now I think Hannah, you had something else to mention.
Yeah, and I want to kind of go with what Dan said, but kind of say I think the biggest issue for me personally with our team this year is the inconsistency. I mean, we've shown up for games that we should have won by 30, 40 points, and we struggle with. And then we show up to games that everyone's like, oh, they're going to lose, and we win. So I think what we have to remember is we're dealing with a team that statistically shouldn't have any problem winning at all this season. But we're dealing with a team who they have to pick what version they're going to be. Are they going to be the team that comes out, executes well, or are they going to be a team that comes out and just plays to their level of opponent? And I think we kind of saw the scrappiness last week. And I'll be honest with you, that game I think is a blessing in disguise, because I think us struggling against GCU is going to help us be more efficient against a team like UNC going into it, knowing, like you said earlier, we're the underdog, but also knowing that if we don't execute the game plan from the first quarter, then I shouldn't say first quarter. Look at me talking. That's how much I know of football. The first, because listen, when you watch, and I don't understand why girls basketball's quarters and men's basketball is not. Because you look at it and you're like, Caitlin Clark's third quarter. I'm like, oh my word. Anyway, but all that to say, I'm really hoping the team we see tomorrow night is the team that we've seen against big teams that have done well in the game.
I hope so too. And honestly, that's the same thing that we talked about regarding our football team. Ty Alexander, missed you last week. Sishi, I missed y'all too. Hey, Hannah and Uncle Dan, any word on the Jalen Hill injury? I heard that it was a leg injury, and he, they had and I pray that it's not, season.
And that worries me that they haven't given specifics yet. Do what?
I'm hearing it was a compound fracture.
I know. I'm saying the longer they wait on the news, the worse it usually is.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's the other way around, to where they're trying to make sure, and, they don't, you know what I'm saying? Because I think from a timing perspective, honestly, I know that he was probably looking forward to playing an A-Day, which is just a couple weeks away. But honestly, in my opinion, he did awesome last year. Sure. He has nothing to prove. And so maybe it's a matter of, just letting the new guys get out there and showcase what they can do. So I'm not, prayers up to Jalen Hill. I really hope and pray that he'll be able to, play in the upcoming season. I'm sure we'll hear something soon. So
according to our own Stephen Smith, it looks like it is a possible knee injury that will possibly require surgery. So we shall see. Wow.
Still sending prayers. I see Van Edwards, Auburn fans, still celebrating the fact that Mac Matt Caldesis isn't contractor from the truth. Look, they have nothing to celebrate. That's why the one that's in the comments, he has a Cam Newton photo. Like they have no choice but to live in the past. Because even with that kick 6 in 2013, it still amounted to nothing because they went to the Natty and lost to Florida State. So it's just like y'all are used to taking L's. That's all. That's your identity is taking L's, and that's sad. It's really sad. However, I digress. Let's keep moving forward. We're not going to give the haters too much of our time. I know. As much as we want to do, because a lot of times
last week, I don't know if you missed it, but I complimented them porta potties and how nice they are down there. That's what I got going for them.
That's all. I mean, it's pathetic. It's nothing to be proud of. I remember we went there in high school on like a tour, like engineering or whatever, and I was so disgusted. Like the innermost being of myself, I was so disgusted. I barely wanted to get off the bus, and I'm just like, why am I here? Like there's literally nothing that this city in its entirety has to offer me at all. Like it's still disgusting. But anyway, let's move on and let's kind of pivot a little bit to football. So I want to kind of get into our recruiting, latest news on Alabama recruiting, any rumors, just a lot of hot topics. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is that we're now number 6 in as far as the 2025 recruiting classes. And this is according to Rivals. Now, it doesn't really hold a lot of weight right now because, it's still a lot of movement, still, a lot more, guys that we expect to commit. And a lot of all of these so far are verbal commits. Now we have 8 guys who have verbally committed so far. But what's interesting is that 6 of the 8 have committed since Coach DeBoer has joined Alabama. Now, I think that speaks volumes. Literally 6 of the 8 since Coach DeBoer got to Alabama. And so one thing that I noticed is like literally every single week in the month of March, we're picking up at least one guy, and I think that we're going to see that in terms of like the statistical side of things, we're going to see that increase over time. Now, one thing to note, and I know that we talk about this a lot, and I know, Dan, that you've mentioned this a few times, how I think half, like 4 of the 8 guys are literally from the state of Alabama. So you have Derek Smith out of Selma, Antonio Coleman out of Saraland, which is the same school or the same area that Ryan Williams is coming from, Anthony Rogers Turbo out of Montgomery, and then Miles Johnson out of Bruton. So I think it speaks volumes how Coach DeBoer has been able to not just get to Alabama and get settled in and re-recruit the locker room, but also recruit as well as he's been doing. Now, I know it's not just him. I know it's our general manager and everyone else, but I think that it speaks volumes. So shout out to our coaching staff as well. Now, 2 of our 2025 recruits, they're from the state of Georgia. And the reason why this matters is because the fact that Georgia, they've done some good things, with Kirby Smart or whatever. But the fact that, of course, the previous year or 2, we had, Caleb Downs come in, Justice Haynes, Jake Pope, all these guys, Dylan Lonergan, who are from the state of Georgia. So the 2 that we have for the 2025 class, Duke Johnson and then Luke Metz. Luke is our latest recruit, and they're both linebackers. And I want to get y'all's take on particularly Luke, because I listened to an interview that he did with Rivals when he made his announcement. And I thought it was so interesting. I'm so excited for him. And when you watch his tapes, I'm like, we need him now. Like if I'm building out a roster, he's on my roster like any day. So I want to get y'all's take. Dan, I'm going to start with you, especially since you're our lead recruiting analyst. I want to know, how do you feel about Luke and just all our guys in general, but particularly Luke? What do you see about him that's special? Is it any of the other, 7 out of the 8 that you would mention anything about?
Yes, I'm loving this linebacker class in general. Luke Metz, he's very similar to Drew Sanders. So it's like us getting a second shot at doing right by Drew Sanders. He's a smart player, high IQ. He's a football player, played at a high level in the state of Georgia. Played at Milton High School against great competition. Physical, sure tackler, always around the ball. He can diagnose plays at light speed, so he's gonna come in. He's gonna be ready to contribute early, I think. He's tall. He's long and rangy. I was surprised at how tall he was. 6'3", around I say 210. Excellent stride. I love him. And the other one we got last week, Abduall Sanders, physical.
Yep.
Great closer on the ball. He doesn't mind sticking his head in there, making the tackles, shedding blocks and getting to the ball.
Yeah.
So we got guys that's gonna fit, our style, our new style defense, the 4-2-5. So
yeah.
We're going after our type of linebacker that we need to fit this system.
I agree. So which sounds to me that we're being very intentional and very strategic. Now, I'm gonna toss it off to you, Hannah, really quickly, but I do want to mention, have y'all noticed how quite a few of the guys who are either transferring into Alabama or a part of like the 2024, 2025 classes, quite a few of them have been athletes, and we're seeing them do multiple roles. And I'm just like when you look at Luke, his capability is beyond what he even realizes. I think that he's going to see more come out of him once he gets to Alabama, but what I noticed the most with him is that he finishes the plays. Like, he's physical the entire drive. It's almost as if he doesn't even realize that the play is over. I mean, this guy, so to me, it just looks like that commitment where, my job is to do whatever it takes, whether that means getting this guy, whatever it looks like. So I'm ecstatic. I want to get your take on this, Hannah, from just not just Luke, but the guys that we have coming in with this 2024 and 2025 class. Anyone that stands out to you?
Well, yes, and kind of another thing I want to say. I'm very excited. I mean, I've said this for weeks that I have nothing but utmost respect for how well Kalen DeBoer has done transitioning from not only Washington, bringing some of his guys with him, but also how well he's done recruiting in the South. I think that was kind of the big thing that people were like, maybe Kalen DeBoer comes to Alabama and he like sucks at recruiting, and then Alabama fumbles the ball and they can't ever get anyone. And now we're recruiting in Tennessee, you're recruiting in Georgia, you're recruiting in Alabama, and it's showing that, they still want to be a part of this program. So I'm very proud of that. But I'll say this. There's one position on the entire team that I am the most anxious and eager to see filled. And do you know what that is?
What?
Our kicker. Because Will Reichard is no longer going to be kicking in Alabama. Now, Connor, I think his last name's Talty. I don't know how you say it, but he's a good guy. He's got great stats. I know he did great in high school. But I'm anxious for that because I don't think people who are these, newer fans. I remember when I was in college, Cade Foster was our field goal kicker. And no negative thing to him. He's a great guy. But the amount of angst I felt whenever we attempted a field goal was about the same angst that Auburn fans feel when it comes to the Iron Bowl in every sport. Okay. I did not know. I mean, we could have a coin toss if we were going to make the field goal or not. And, that LSU game, we lost 9-6. I mean, that gum, we couldn't make a single one. But
that was pathetic. Was pathetic. But it wasn't on us all the way, Hannah. Like, that was some of the refs' play calling.
100%. But my point is for the last 5 years, we've been blessed to see a kicker who we as Alabama fans can be like, oh, we're going for field goal, perfect, we'll make it. I mean, we went decades without feeling that way, probably since Lee Tiffin, right? So point being is that's a position I'm anxious about again because I know he's a stellar kicker. But to lose a guy like Will, I think is probably going to be one of the biggest impact positions that we aren't really focusing on. So that's something I just want to mention because that's something I'm looking forward to watching. Not only for practice, but A-Day. How well can we execute the kicking game? Because Will Reichard saved our rear ends many times last week.
He did. And you know what? I'm glad that our players and the fan base more so, respected him, and we gave him props. I mean, because it's plenty of times where we shouldn't have gone into overtime. We shouldn't have been tied with certain, but he literally carried that weight on his shoulders. So that's a good point. And any coaches that are watching, I really hope and pray that we're able to kind of fill in that position and have some confidence at that key position. Now, I definitely wanted to talk about, we know that there are a few more practices coming up before A-Day. There are going to be more recruits coming to town to Tuscaloosa. And one guy in particular, he's the 5-star quarterback out of Carrollton, I believe. He's from the same area as Caleb Odom, the 5-star quarterback, Julian Lewis. And so this guy, he's coming back to Tuscaloosa. And I think it's something about when these guys are getting to Tuscaloosa. I mean, we've been hosting 50 plus guys literally every other week, if not every weekend, and the fact that he's ready to come, he was just there. I think that speaks volumes. I think that he knows in the back of his mind where he's going to end up. But, I think it's good to do your due diligence. You don't want to rush rush that process. But on top of that, there's another guy. He's a cornerback, and he's out of California, DeJohn Lee Jr. And that's a guy that I would like to see us get. And I know that, USC and UGA have been on his radar, but I mentioned him because I feel like with Damani Jackson transferring from USC and coming to Alabama, I think that could, if he's smart about it, that would kind of deter me from wanting to go to USC, especially playing that same position. Now, it may open up a position for him to start possibly, if he went there. But I do think that, you have to look at the tradition and the reputation of the school as well, and just if it can get you where you're trying to go. So I think that that's one guy that we should still keep our eyes on. I would try to get him, to Alabama, hands down. But I want to get y'all's take as well. Are there any names that you can think of that you feel like we need to continue applying pressure? We need to, we need to lock those guys in. And I'll start with you, Hannah. Anyone that you can think of?
Well, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think you kind of named the big guys. And for me, it's really amazing that we're in this position, because I remember, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of like in a historical, I guess I'm kind of in my reflective state today, but, I think it's good to sometimes reflect on how far we've come as a program, even with Nick Saban, before Nick Saban. And I'll say this, Lane Kiffin, love him, know him. He really helped this program, whether people want to.
Yeah, he did.
If it wouldn't have been for him, we wouldn't have gotten the Blake Barnett, the Jalen Hurts.
The Jalen Hurts, yeah,
and
exactly.
So we were pro-style quarterback all the way. I mean, some of the guys like Ty Simpson or Blake Barnett would have fit into that program well, but we've adapted, we've changed. And so the fact that we're having these conversations, I mean, because a USC for a Juju Lewis is what we would have seen in the 90s, early 2000s. That would have been a place they would have gone to shine. But the fact that we are now a program that's competing with the old school, I mean, USC was the Dynasty with Pete Carroll back then. That was the program to go to. And we're now that program. So I love the fact that we're all getting to have this conversation on which recruits. Because I remember when we may not have any recruits.
Yeah.
We were relying on walk-ons, So I'm just mind blown. But I mean, I think for me, when you said, that was who I was thinking. I mean, that's exciting. He's coming back. I know he's been to Colorado. But I mean, I'll say this, Kalen DeBoer does not, how do I say this? Kalen DeBoer thrives on having many powerful players in many different positions. He likes to compete. And when players want to compete with one another to get the starting job, that's what makes a program last. And so I am here for it. So if we can get 3, 4, 5 great quarterbacks in the quarterback room, Julian Sayin left. Julian Sayin lost his opportunity to fight for this position. Who's going to come here now and take his place to fight? Juju would be a great guy.
I think so too. And I'm glad that you mentioned Julian Sand because my brother really liked him. And I was hopeful that we would be able to retain him. I know that there was more that went on behind the scenes, but I truly feel like to claim to be the best, you have to compete against the best and you have to play with and against the best. And so if you're a quarterback, if I'm a quarterback coming into it, and I'm trying to figure out what school to go to, you mentioned Ohio State and Julian Sand. Well, one of their top wide receivers decommitted today. And I think that speaks volumes. And so my thing is that if you're one of these 5-star elite quarterbacks, for one, you want to go somewhere where you can be developed, right? And you want to also play with some of the top receivers in the nation. I mean, to me, that's the only way to continue to build and grow. And you're competing against some of the best teams across the nation. So I think that, if you look at it from that perspective, the Alabama would be locked in 100%. I think if you look at it like, okay, well, I don't really want to compete, and I just want to kind of, go after the NIL money, this, and this, then USC would be the place. Now, Dan, I want to get your perspective. I know that, there were certain names that you had mentioned a couple weeks ago, but I want to know right now in this moment, are there any guys that are particularly on your radar?
Yes, I'm definitely looking for one in particular is Josiah Sharma, 6'3" and a half, 300-pound defensive lineman out of Folsom, California. I'm really liking, our position with him. Another name, because the linebacker room is filling up very fast, so 2 names to watch out for. One in particular is Dawson Merritt out of Kansas. Another one is Ty Jackson, the number 1 overall linebacker according to On3. But hey, quarterback dominoes are going to start falling soon. So, getting Juju Lewis, it was announced yesterday that he's going to be visiting again, so getting him back on campus again, is going to be huge.
Especially within a short period of time. Right. I mean, it speaks volumes. Really quickly.
The last few guys that have come back the second time have committed. So we'll see what happens.
And that's literally doing your due diligence. You want to make sure this is a place that you're going to probably call home the next few years, right? You want to make sure you like the city. You want to make sure that, it literally, we call it Bama Sci-Fi, right? It's the brotherhood. So you want to make sure that, that camaraderie is there. But it's something that I'm going to mention that Luke Metz said this week that I love. And I was like, that's so interesting that he picked up on that. And it says a lot about just him, as a person, that he was, wise enough to discern certain things. But I want to quickly mention Van's comment. I tried to sneak into Jalen Milroe's youth quarterback camp and get some pointers and try to get on the team. He kicked me out. Apparently youth doesn't mean 34 and unathletic. Okay. Look, Van got the jokes tonight, so you can keep them coming, Van. We definitely appreciate it. Now, Luke said something this week during his interview with Rivals, and this was after he mentioned that he was going to commit to Alabama. And he mentioned that, he was basically being asked about what he's noticing, as far as like the coaches, because of course he grew up loving Alabama, even though he went to school in Georgia, I believe, in Georgia. And one thing that he mentioned was that he felt like maybe with Coach Saban wouldn't have been the type where you can just like randomly hit him up and say, hey, can we go to lunch? But he feels like Coach DeBoer is that type of person. And I said that honestly, it speaks volumes, because anybody can have a bad day, but you want to make sure that the people that you're kind of not necessarily submitting to in a sense, but they're your leadership in a sense, your authority. You want to make sure that you can build that type of relationship with them as well, so that if they do happen to curse you out on that sideline, you're not taking it personally. You're more of like a Terrion Arnold, where you're more level-headed about it, and so, but I definitely like the names that y'all threw out there. I think like I said, I'm noticing every single week we're getting at least one new recruit, at least. So I think maybe before the end of this week we may kind of hear more chatter. I think that next week, and as we near A Day, and maybe right after, because I wouldn't be surprised, I would say we're probably gonna have a full house. It's probably going to be more packed out than it's been in years for A Day, especially with the, recruits wanting to be there. But I want to, still on this topic, but I kind of want to pivot a little bit to the guys that we currently have and some of our, new coaches. So Jamarcus Shepard, our wide receiver coach, he's been talking to the media, and he's been speaking really good things about some of our guys. And one guy in particular he mentioned is Emmanuel Henderson Jr. Now, this is a receiver. Now, he came into Alabama as a running back, actually 5-star in the 2022 class, but he's a receiver for Alabama. And we, some of us have been mentioning his name. We're just kind of wondering how we're going to utilize him, because he's really good. One thing that Jamarcus Shepard mentioned is that he has really good IQ, football IQ, which is awesome, that he's really fast. And then it made me think about he said that he's very dependable. And I know that my mom used to say that a lot about John Mechie. And so it just kind of puts you in that mind frame that he's already seeing that from Emmanuel, even though Emmanuel didn't play a whole lot. He should have been used more, but for whatever reason he wasn't. But then we also had some commentary from some of our players. So even like Robbie Oats, he spoke great things about our tight end that's transferring in from Washington, Josh Cuevas, and was basically saying that having him come in when he already knows the scheme and how Kalen DeBoer likes to run things, it's made it easier for our tight end core to understand the play calling and what it is that they're looking for ultimately. Kobe Prentice. I mean, so many of them have been talking. Kobe Prentice, I think that he reminds me so much of a Devontae Smith, and I think he's going to be a guy that's just going to be like, he's going to light things on fire. So I want to know, just with some of the chatter, some of the interviews this week, did anything stand out to any of you from the coach's perspective, or even from, I like Devontae Smith on the defensive side, who's at Alabama now. He had an interview as well just a few days ago. And I love the way that he's very positive, very optimistic. He embraced Coach DeBoer and the new staff quickly. So it speaks volumes to his leadership ability. And I think that that's going to be one of the voices that are needed in the locker room during the whole season. Like, you can't do without that voice. So I want to ask you, Dan, have you heard anything that I haven't touched on, or is there anything that stood out to you from the coaches and what they're seeing with the guys?
Yeah, one guy I want to give a shout out to is I'm hearing good things from Sterling Dixon, the linebacker, linebacker. I'm hearing good things from him. But I'm glad the guys we got, because the guys that stayed, you want guys in the locker room that's faced adversity. You know what I'm saying? And there was no bigger adversity than Coach Saban retiring. And the guys handled that well. You know what I'm saying? Those are the guys you want to go to war with this season. And I think, any other adversity we have this year, you know what I'm saying, they'll be prepared for it. because they have the right mindset. So that's another thing I wanted to point out.
Yeah, agreed. It's all about the mindset at the end of the day, and who has that staying power that can endure, that can persevere. Hannah, is there anything that stood out to you if you heard anything from the coaches or from the players?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think what you said, Emmanuel Henderson. I mean, I think people forget that his history at Alabama is very impressive. I mean, he was a five-star recruit for a running back. Yep. Came to Alabama last 2 years, if I'm correct, mostly played special teams. So this is really going to be another position for him that he's changing to. But the kid can play. Like Jamarcus Shepard said, he can run, he can drop his weight, and like he's a great route runner. So a couple of things for me that stands out is our ability to recruit players, but even more so, our ability to make players not only better men, but have them maybe change positions that's going to better them, not only for the team, but for their future. But also, I'm really enjoying the difference between Nick Saban's spring practice and not letting coaches talk versus Kalen DeBoer. Because I really feel like it kind of brings a different energy and excitement to the program. And, I understand Nick Saban's old school way of keeping everything hush hush and let them think what they want. But it's also really nice to get to hear from players and from coaches on what they like so far, how they feel, what they see is changing, what they see they need to fix. And so for me, I'm excited. And I think I said this last week, the last time I was this excited. Someone tried to correct me and say, 2020 was exciting. Yeah, but we hadn't had a change like we have now. So I'm very excited to see not only the coach changes, obviously our coaching staff, but to see players that we saw on opposite sides of the ball, whether they're now playing offense or offensive defense, whatever it may be, I'm here for it, and I'm very excited. But Emmanuel Henderson's a guy that people forget. He came to Alabama as a running back. So, I mean, he can play.
Yeah, he definitely can. And then I see a comment from Ty Alexander. I've been hearing a lot on Red Morgan and Xavier Brown. Yeah, those are two of our DBs coming in with this 2024 class. These guys are elite. Like this DB room, both the safeties and the cornerbacks, like on a whole different level, even considering the ones that are transferring in. We mentioned Damani Jackson from USC. Sure. Keon Sabb from Michigan, another elite guy. I mean, and then the guys who are already there, Devontae Smith, Malachi Moore, I mean, all of them, Jaleel Hurley, Tony Mitchell, like you can literally go down the list. And I'm so glad because I think it's going to benefit us when it comes to the scheme that Kane Womack is trying to, run that 4-2-5. Now, before we move on to the next topic, because I want to make sure that we have time to kind of delve into different things. Now, I wanted to mention, because this did make the headlines, Scott Cochran was in Tuscaloosa a few days ago. And I was so excited because when the news broke that he resigned from UGA, all I did was smile because I'm just like, I have a feeling that he's coming back to Alabama. And a lot of us have been talking over the last few years, like, man, I wish that we still had Cochran, because that's the type of energy that's hard to replace, And so the fact that he was in Tuscaloosa wearing the Alabama shirt, or where legends are made, and I'm just so excited about that. Now, for those who are not too familiar with him, he was at Alabama pretty much the entire stint of Coach Saban's career. I think 2007 to 2019, and then he went to UGA. But I think it speaks volumes that he quit within a couple years, because he knows where that money is. He knows where the winners really are. So you want to go where the money reside and where the W's reside. So he knows what's up. Hopefully we can get him on board. I'm really hoping. But speaking of Coach Saban, he recently had an interview with ESPN, and it was very interesting. I'm going to make this quick, but it was interesting something that he said. He was saying that over the last 50 years, he feels like everything has been a rush. Like he's just been rushing to do everything, just do this, do that. It always felt like even when he's, at the lake, it's always something that needs to be done. And, he was talking about that. And then Mrs. Terry, she shared some feedback as well. And she said, she basically wrote a letter called the 10 Commandments of Retirement. And she was basically saying that now he's, sending his own text messages, sending his own emails, picking up his own prescriptions. So Coach Saban,
ketchup and mustard.
yeah, exactly. So I like it. He's going to have his office at the stadium. And essentially what he said is that he wants to be as supportive as he can, but he doesn't want to be looking over anyone's shoulders. And he wants to make sure that, he's there to support. And I like that. And so I think it's going to be a great addition to College Game Day. Now, before we move on, Van Edwards, Scott, please come home. We got beans and bologna. Look, we got the barbecue. We got all that stuff. Look, and I'm hungry. So don't get to talk about food. Like I definitely want some of that. But before we move move on, I definitely want to mention, because we keep talking about A-Day. We talk a lot about the title towel. This is one of our partners. So your game day, your A-Day, none of it is the same unless you have a title towel. So be sure to visit whitwellsports.com and grab yours today. And also use the promo code STANDARD for an exclusive discount. And I think that, this is probably the perfect time to buy it so you get it on time. I wouldn't wait too much longer so you can stand out and maybe the camera will pan on you while you're there. I don't know. But I do want to kind of shift. And I know that, the NFL draft is coming up. Some of our guys at the combine and at pro day, I mean, they really showed out. I see GT18, what has 4 teeth and is 50 foot long. Auburn concession stand line. That's a good one, because they don't have anything they don't have nothing to watch on the field. Concession, but they're loyal, I guess. I mean, they still show up for their raggedy team. Van Edwards, I heard they changed the legal drinking age in Lee County to 35 to keep alcohol out of the schools.
Oh my goodness.
He's on a roll. He's on a roll tonight. But speaking of the NFL, certain guys stood out in the combine and others stood out in pro day. And the question, of course, is certain guys that we know that'll probably be drafted in the first round, as they should be. Now, I'm going to get y'all's takes on this. I honestly, I know that Dallas Turner, of course, to me, he's a top 3 player, hands down. I would actually say, Kool-Aid, of course, first round. I would say maybe J.C. Latham, of course, Terrion Arnold. But honestly, I would, in my opinion, now I am biased, I'm not going to lie, I would say Jermaine Burton. If I'm a team and I'm in need of a receiver, I'm taking Jermaine Burton off that board, and that's just my opinion. I know that others may not agree, but those are the guys that I would, probably look at in the first round, but I want to get y'all's takes. I'll start with you, Dan. Who do you think is going to make that first round? Who do you think, may, I don't know, that may maybe pro day or combine kind of help their draft stock?
Definitely, I see 4 definitely coming off the board in the first round. That's Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, J.C. Latham, and Dallas Turner. Those 4 definitely coming off the board. Another one, just because he plays a premium position, is Chris Braswell. Pass rushers are not, easy to come by, so. If a team looking for a pass rusher, that's an excellent one there. He could slip into the late part of the first round. But those 5 are in particular, but the 4 definitely is what I expect to see in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. Hannah, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree the same. And I think something that we've talked about, and I think it's so true on the show, is how important that opportunities like this, whether it's pro day or the combine or even the Senior Bowl, right? These players getting an opportunity to showcase themselves, to get better. And I think some of the guys did that. And I think when you look at before pro day, even Terrion Arnold's a great example. You look at some of the mock drafts, even Mel Kiper's mock draft of where he was going, he's moving up. I think people are seeing how quick he is, how versatile he is, and how smart he is. He has field smarts. Like, he knows where the ball is. And so I think for a guy like him, pro day was an incredible opportunity to showcase himself and raise his draft stock. I'll say this about Alabama. We can talk about the NIL all day long, right? We can talk about players getting paid. But real players know that going to Alabama, their payday is going to come in the future, and it's an investment. Yeah. And I think when you look at historically how many players have gone first, second, third, fourth round in the NFL draft, that says nothing of itself about Alabama. Sure, Tua Tagovailoa could have made millions of dollars. Bryce Young could have made millions of dollars at Alabama while being a college student. But I bet you if you ask Tua, Mac, or Bryce, if they're getting the opportunity to transfer for more money now or stay at Alabama now and look how they're getting paid in the NFL, I bet you 100% of them have said 100% stay at Alabama and our money's coming in the future. And that's what Alabama does. Alabama set a standard, and these guys are going to get their money. And I'm excited for them. But I just think it's, a conversation that needs to be had is, what's worth it? Is it worth it to go to a college and get paid now and may not do as well, or is it worth it to get paid in the future, knowing that at Alabama you're still going to make some money, but it may not, it's just, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see, especially when you look at the transferred from Alabama and who's come back. I mean, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we always talk about how you do one thing is how you do everything. I think it speaks volumes to how a person, even how they see themselves. Because I feel like if you're going to bet on anyone, you need to be able to bet on yourself. And I almost feel like it's a cop out to want to take that money now at 17, 18 years old in college versus it comes across almost in a, I don't know. It almost comes across like they're not even willing to bet on themselves that they can, go to that highest level. Not that they can't go to the NFL, but that they can be in that, top 15, the first round. It's almost like you're not even really willing to bet on yourself because that's going to come. Like all that's going to come. But, we'll see how it plays out. I believe that Will Riker, he's the best kicker in the draft. That's my opinion. Jace McClellan. Yeah. And I'm feeling a little iffy with Jace. I know that he's one of the top running backs, but because it seems like the NFL is not valuing running backs as much, especially because you have a lot of quarterbacks that are good runners as well, then it's like, I don't know where he's going to fall, but he's hands down one of the best running backs, and so we'll see what happens. But I think, Hannah, you mentioned NIL, and that was the next thing that I wanted to kind of touch on because, of course, Kaden Proctor, he's coming back. Now, I have mixed feelings about this. I definitely, I would welcome him with, open arms at the end of the day. But one thing that I wanted to mention, because y'all know how I feel about the NIL and like the NCAA and how they went about establishing it. But one thing to note is that, so with the different schools, you have however many collectives, and that in itself is a problem. So you'll have a school like Florida State that has 5 different NIL collectives. Alabama has one, which is Alabama. Well, Iowa also has one, and they released a statement when Kaden Proctor announced that he's going to come back to Alabama. And essentially what they were saying is that he did sign basically a decent size NIL deal with Iowa, and technically, so basically the NIL collective, it can have a nonprofit side, but also an incorporated side. So he did receive something from the incorporated side, but essentially it's not to the point where he's going to really need to sit down with an attorney and really look. Now, I think that's going to be the case with like the Caleb Downs of the world, Isaiah Bonds. That's why I always say, I didn't, my background is mechanical engineering. I didn't study law, but I've sat in some huge meetings and all that's, and you learn so much as far as like just the legalities of things and how to move about, what to do, what not to do. And so I feel like the Caleb Downs of the world, Isaiah Bonds, even having their parents around, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you really need to read the fine print. And I think that, it's really going to create a bigger issue coming down the pipeline. So we know that the portal for undergrads doesn't reopen until I think April 16th, which is basically right after our A-Day. But there's a lot of chatter about Caleb Downs coming back. Really quickly before I go on a rant about NCAA and NIL, I want to get both of y'all's perspectives about Caleb Downs. Dan, I'm going to ask you this. Caleb Downs, do you want him back at Alabama or no?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
I did.
Oh man, let me tell you. Me personally, if I'm a guy in the locker room, I would have all the problem in the world with it.
Yeah.
But being that, I'm saying, I'm a Bama fan, and the meltdown that we would get from other fan bases, I'm all for it. Yeah. I would love it. Just for that purpose alone, just because of the gump in me, I would love to see that happen, just so I could laugh at all the people that were saying Coach Saban was whining about NIL and all this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just so I could laugh in those people's faces.
Agreed. I feel you. Hannah, how do you feel? Would you like to see Caleb come back, or your arms are kind of closed to him?
No. Yeah. I don't. I'll be honest, I have mixed feelings about Kaden Proctor coming back. I'm someone that is a very loyal person. And I think we're seeing the downfall of NIL as we're seeing players make hasty decisions. We're seeing them feed off emotion, feed off incentives. And some of these players are seeing money and digits they've never seen before.
Yeah.
I can't blame them for that. But at the same time, it's really hard because Caleb Downs, great player, no doubt about it. But I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, he's got his black stripe removed. That's kind of their tradition there at Ohio State. But to me, having him back is kind of a slap in the face to all the players who stayed. Yeah. And I'm not saying that negatively against Kaden Proctor. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm glad he's back. I know, we need him on the O-line. If I'm Kalen DeBoer, I'll sit him down and say, we're glad you're back, Kaden, but you're back at square one. You're going to have to fight to get a starting position back. But for me, it's a blessing and a curse, because I feel like we are seeing how players react. But this is what I'll go back. The very first episode on the show, I said the NCAA screwed up when they didn't have boundaries and rules for these players.
Yeah.
And we didn't have boundaries to say this is right and this is wrong. But if I am, let's just pretend I am someone on the team that maybe was a 2 or 3 star who's worked my rear end off for 2 or 3 years. And then these guys are leaving because, Nick Saban retired. I'm like, all right, I'm staying there. Yeah, staying loyal. I'm staying there to work for an opportunity. These players leave and then they come back. I'm like, bro, like, no, you chose to leave.
Yeah.
Why are you coming back? Are you coming back because of money?
Yeah.
Or are you coming back because you realize you screwed up and you should have left Alabama? So that to me is kind of the mix up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Caden Proctor. Maybe he had a guilty conscience. Maybe he's like, you know what? I really shouldn't have left. And if that's the case, then that's fine. But I don't want money chasers at Alabama. I want dynasty chasers. I want dreamers. And I want players who want to play for Alabama, not anything else. They want to play because of tradition, and tradition lives on, because, money comes and goes. And, I don't know where the NIL is going to go in a couple of years. And I'm interested to see that. Sorry, I've talked too much tonight. But
No, you're good. You're good. But
I like get fired up.
No, same. No, honestly. And I feel like, when you think about fight or flight, that's our instinctive response or reaction to something that happens that almost makes you, it somewhat feels like a trauma that may have happened. And I know for the guys, it was hard for them when Coach Saban announced it, but it makes me think that certain guys chose to stay out and to stay at Alabama. Those are the ones who were the fighters. Certain ones chose to run to the flight, and so I'm just like, well, Caleb Downs, honestly, he was one of my favorite players on the team, hands down. But the fact that, and then even certain things about almost kind of, how like if you're maybe working at a job and you already kind of mentally check out, it kind of seemed like it was one of those things where he already had a foot out the door anyway. And you start to see that, and you can be quiet, Chris, because ain't nobody signing up to go to Auburn.
Ain't nobody transferring in there.
Exactly. Ryan Williams didn't even show up for his visit. Like, ain't nobody think about y'all. Y'all raggedy. Y'all ain't got nothing to offer. Your little band don't have anything to offer. Don't nobody know your little raggedy songs. They're not getting y'all spilled, freshen up for any type of scrimmage. You don't have nothing to scrimmage about.
Can I get them? Can I get them?
Go ahead and get them, Dan.
Go ahead, Dan.
Listen. KD Johnson just transferred to Walmart. You know what I'm saying? KD Johnson, he just transferred this past week, like 2 or 3 days ago.
No, Walmart.
You know what I'm saying? He hit the portal. He's at Walmart. I saw him at Walmart the other day. He was a greeter.
I was like, not
what are you talking about, man?
I thought he was working self-checkout. Yeah, he just this guy just want to be seen. Like I said, he's here faithfully every Wednesday night. So I mean, we appreciate the support, because you're definitely a secret fan.
They even have Wi-Fi in Auburn. I didn't even know that.
They don't. They're just raggedy. I'm telling y'all, they are raggedy. Raggedy people do raggedy things. That's all they know.
Why transfer out when nobody wants you? Why settle for Walmart when you can have Gucci?
Yeah, nobody's offering them anything. Where you gonna transfer? Yale, the people that you just lost to, like.
If you can't beat them, join them, CC.
Might as well.
It was part of his NIL deal. It was part of the NIL deal that he had to finish out his career at Walmart.
Y'all are crazy. Okay.
After they get Walmart, I think they got Piggly Wiggly.
It probably is Piggly Wiggly. It probably is. And he knows all about it, but we appreciate you anyway, Chris. I know that we will go in on you at times, and I know you have nothing better to do on a Wednesday night. Look, we told you can go to somebody's Bible study, but if you know what, if you want to be here, we'll send a prayer to God for you. I mean, we'll just lift you up in prayer. Now, really quickly, and I'm gonna give this just 1 minute. The NIL. I honestly, I really want to sit down with the board of the NCAA. I think what happened, I think that they had they come together with the lawyers. Of course, they think about the legalities, and that makes sense. But I think what they wanted to do is create some separation, which is why they were okay with having all these collectives. These collectives to me, are basically individual entities that are able to some degree, the NCAA, they have the governing rules, but you're still in some way letting the NILs kind of operate how they want to. When you really think about it, if the NCAA, if the reason for them establishing the NIL to begin with, why didn't they just work directly with the schools where you have one main collective for each school? It could have been the Alabama. I mean, we already have a trust. We have a foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it really makes you think, because you got Florida State that has 5 collectives. You have Texas where they may just have 1 or 2, but if the oil money is where it needs to be at.
Collectives.
Yeah, so it's just it doesn't make sense. I see Linda, they climb poles for Wi-Fi like they did in Green Acres. Yeah, y'all need to light up the Auburn fans, the Michigan fans, the Georgia fans who are still salty. Because look, we just got to let them know. Now, really quickly, we want to kind of pivot a little bit because. Did you have something to say, Dan? Looks like you.
Yeah. The Florida State. Yeah, one of those collectives. It was confirmed that they pulled all the money that they had for the playoff tickets into that collective.
They probably did. Well, you remember DeSantis, he had filed that $1 million. I'm like, that $1 million lawsuit, that ain't going to touch how much Florida State would have to pay to leave the ACC. So, sir, you can sit that down because that's not going to have any impact. They have bigger challenges to think about. So, hopefully this NIL, I think that there are other ways to handle the NIL.
They could have even done conferences. They could have even had each conference have a board that help manage this, but it's the whole disaster.
Yeah, that's why you have to do your due diligence up front. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to be more proactive. Now it's going to cost a lot of people a lot of money, because of just them not doing what they were supposed to do to begin with. But I love to sit on a panel and talk about that because it's like, to me, it's not hard to I like to think about what happens when attorneys get involved, because at that point it's only so much that you can do. And I think the NCAA, they're going to be probably, well, I'll leave that there. We know that certain schools have been, reaching out with lawsuits and all that good stuff. So we'll see what happens. Now, I do want to pivot a little bit to our other sports. I know we touched on men's basketball. I hope and pray that we win tomorrow. I believe that we will. I think that we have what it takes. Now, so our women's hockey team, we just beat Georgia 9-2. 9-2, our women's hockey team. So shout out to them. They're doing their thing. Our men's swimming and diving, they're competing this week actually for the NCAA championship games in Indianapolis. So shout out to them. Hopefully we win. But our girls, our women's swimming and diving recently competed, and Avery Wiseman, shout out to her. She recorded her her third second team All-American honor. So shout out to her, because that's a really good accolade to receive. I think the men's tennis team, they're doing awesome. We beat LSU recently 5-2 at home. And then our women's softball team, we have a 3-game series in Kentucky starting tomorrow. So I want to get y'all's perspectives. Of course, men's basketball, Sweet 16, everyone's looking forward to seeing that. But are there any other sports across the Alabama nation that y'all are looking forward to seeing? And I'll start with you, Hannah.
Baseball. I am very excited to see. I mean, we won last night against Belmont up here, part of the state at the Madison Toyota Field. But I'm excited. I mean, we're ranked 16th right now. And I mean, we talked about it last week, how well it did against Tennessee. The fact that we lost the first one, came back. Obviously, we struggled against Georgia. But this program I feel like we're finally getting to be consistent, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. Obviously, wheelchair basketball won some national championships recently. And we're just a dynasty school. We just win, and, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and that's what Chris isn't used to. That's why he's, you know what. But we're glad that we can bring you some Alabama is Taylor Swift, Auburn is Kanye, whatever. And ain't nobody think about you or Taylor Swift or Kanye. So no. You look, fine. Because has he dropped in the chat anything about their scrimmage game? Like, do they have like an Auburn day, or do they have a pro day or anything like that? Do y'all know?
Their fan base don't know. Obviously, they're watching us.
April 6th at 1 p.m.
They do have one.
I heard
ain't nobody talk about it.
We're paying fans $10 each to attend.
Yeah, they're like, please come, please make it look like we're important. I mean,
that's where their NIL collective going, is the fans actually attend the games, because otherwise no one's going to be there. Yeah,
it's just disgraceful. You should be embarrassed, sir. I would be embarrassed. Now,
make sure you bring your no nats.
Exactly. It's just ridiculous. It's disgusting. Now, I do want to thank everyone who's tuned in tonight. We really appreciate you. Be sure to like the video though, because we really want to make sure that our content reaches others. We want to be able to reach some of the other fans of other schools that love to troll Alabama, because they love to have our names in their mouth. Like, we live rent free in their heads. They ain't got nothing better to do. But also hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss a video. Now, before we leave, I definitely want to check. Do y'all have any promotions or any shows, any social media that you want to promote to the viewers? And I'll start with you, Dan.
Yes, of course. You catch me on Twitter, at the Final Whistle Dan James IV, on Instagram. Dan James IV on LinkedIn. Catch me Tuesday night.
Not the LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I'm
All right.
baby. And right here every Wednesday night, right here on this very channel, right here, this show.
Yeah.
You get to see me. And I like how he got me, surrounded by two beautiful women. It's a good thing,
Look, that's why you can't stop smiling, huh?
That's right.
Showing all 32. No, it's definitely awesome to have you here, Dan. It's you're definitely a bright spot on the show. And Hannah, do you have any socials or anything that you want to promote?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the UA Sign Girl. You can follow me on my Facebook as well. You can just search Hannah Stevens UA Sign Girl. Have a show, the Hannah Stevens Show. Starting a new podcast, doing all about game changers, people who've changed the game in their sport, industry, whatever. I'm excited about it. And then I can't announce it yet. I think next week I'll be allowed to, but I have another radio show coming out. Very excited about it. Yeah, it's a work in progress. We're almost done, but I think next week it'll be announced. There'll be a press release, so then I can share it with y'all. So I'm excited. But yeah, I'm honored to be a part of the show. It's the highlight about Wednesdays. And yeah, I'm so honored y'all invited me to be a part of the show.
Yeah, you've been a great addition, and I just love how the viewers, y'all are so supportive, and I love how they've taken you in and taken Dan in, and because it started out, at the start of last season with just me, and I do like to talk, so I was like, I was talking, but I'm like, okay, I want to get other opinions, I want to learn from other people, because y'all know, certain things that I don't know, so I think it's good that we can feed off of each other as well, and definitely shout out to all the viewers, everyone who's, in the live chat. We appreciate the support as always. Now you can find me on Instagram at beauty_of_intelligence. Same handle on X or Twitter, but I don't really use that anyway.
Me too.
I know. I be like, I started a company like less than a year ago. And so I've been like busy getting that off the ground. And it's just, I've learned that you don't want to spread yourself too thin, because at that point you're not giving 100% to anything. You know what I'm saying? So I've learned to not do that. So with the social media in itself, that can be its own monster, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't overdo it there. But, without further ado, I think that, we addressed the haters in the chat. If there's anyone else that needs to be called out, feel free to put them on the screen. But, I think they've learned their lesson. I think they're learning their look. But make sure, y'all, if you haven't booked your hotels, if you haven't gotten your stuff together for A-Day, be sure to do it, because it's just a couple weeks away. We still have Auburn in the building running their mouths. I do wonder if this is a child. Do y'all think this could be like a teenager or something? Because to me, I'm thinking like, okay, well, surely no grown man is going to have a picture of another man as his profile. That's number one, but it's just, it's something that's off. Huh?
I wouldn't put it past him. But I'll be honest with you. He spells too many words correctly. I don't really think he's an Auburn fan. Like he is like, he spells okay. I mean, his punctuation's a little off, but the words are spelled correctly. He even used the correct your. So I'm really thinking he's not an Auburn fan, because he put the apostrophe RE. So I'm just not really sure anymore.
Yeah. So that eliminates Auburn and Georgia.
That does. So I'm like, maybe it's a Michigan. Maybe, I don't know.
I also thought it was Hugh Freeze.
It could be. You just never know. I mean, they don't have anything better to do, but
Chris Williams is his burner phone name.
It probably is. I mean, it's just all, like I said, it's all around raggedy. I mean, you're just gonna be raggedy across the board. So you gotta own your raggedy. But anyway, well, we really appreciate everyone who's joined. Be sure to like, comment, come back and rewatch the video too, the replay, and be sure to comment. And we will definitely see you all, huh?
Jeremiah Taylor said it's T-Rob.
It probably is. He probably mad because he left Alabama and hadn't been able to really do anything at Georgia. I mean, it's like, what, Caleb Downs, they weren't able to get Keon Sapp. He transferred to Alabama. He could have gone to Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Damani Jackson.
I wonder what Jake Pope is thinking now.
Yeah, if I were him, I would really be considering. I mean, he's from Georgia, but my thing is like, if you're from Georgia and you chose to come to Alabama in the first place, it's for a reason. It's definitely for a reason. So, I mean, I would have loved to have seen Jake Pope go off at Alabama. We should have used him more last year, but hey, Van Edwards, this network is the best thing on YouTube. Let's get the subs up. Tell your mama, your cousins, tell that jerk in HR who doesn't appreciate your sense of humor. Tell the mailman, tell everybody. Look, hide your kids, hide your wife.
We coming for you.
I know. Yeah, they're gonna learn today. All right. Well, y'all have a blessed evening and roll tide roll. Be sure to check out our basketball game tomorrow. Cheer our guys on. I believe we're gonna come out with a W, and I think it's just gonna be a year of W's. Like we need to go ahead and claim it for across the board, across all sports. So y'all have a blessed evening, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye,
Roll
all.
tide.
Roll tide.